I'm your host, John Myers, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody. Gotta have my notes. It's John Myers from the KICKER UnMasked studios. Gotta have my notes. Alternator. Hey, everybody. We have fun. Hey, everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Right here, right now. It's John Myers. We like to give stuff away. Alternator. Post some more pictures. We got to thank Steve and Becky live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't forget Texas Roadhouse right here, right now. Hey, everybody. Don't forget right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. Had a great dinner tonight. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. Had a great dinner tonight. So, hey, everybody. So, housekeeping. Had a great dinner tonight. So, alternator. Housekeeping. Housekeeping. 7:30 on Tuesday night. Housekeeping. From the KICKER UnMasked studios. Housekeeping. Right here, right now. Hey, everybody. So, it's John Myers. Hey, everybody. It's John Myers from the KICKER UnMasked studios. Hey, everybody. From the KICKER UnMasked studios. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody. Right here.
Happy New Year! Welcome back. We have missed you. It has been very lonely here in the KICKER building. Everybody's been on vacation and doing fun things and traveling, and Carlos was stuck in Chicago overnight because of the snow, and we're so glad you're here with us. Of course, being remote, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. Although a couple of years ago, we did get snowy out of the building and we missed a show. I did forget about that. Thank you for being here tonight. It is Tuesday, 7:30, Facebook, YouTube, X. And I have a question before I even bring up anything else. I've been wondering, what are you guys listening to in your daily drivers? What is your go-to demo for your daily driver? What do you like to listen to? Please put it in the chat, because I'm looking for a new playlist for a new year. I want to get some new tunes, some stuff I haven't listened to before. Usually Jacob Lucky's my go-to guy for new music because, he's almost half my age and he listens to cool new stuff, and I listen to old stuff that he doesn't even care about. So that's what I want to hear about. But who all is here tonight? I know Bobby Burkett, you checked in at 4:45, which is I think 37 seconds after Colin turned on the stream. So welcome, thanks for being here with us. And I saw Sean Lynn, hello, thanks for being here. And is Andy McGill, did he take a night off? Andy, you here tonight? I didn't see Andy yet, but, oh yeah, there you are. Hey Andy, welcome. And also, Brian Gary, welcome to Stillwater. Brian, you're probably not watching tonight, but Brian Gary is a huge KICKER fanatic. He's been in the industry a long time. He's a big help on Skills USA, and he just moved from the Carolinas to Stillwater. I think he got here yesterday. So we'll probably see him the next couple of weeks, maybe have some coffee, maybe even have him on the show. Who knows? That'll be fun. So tonight in the studio, of course, we have Stephen Bambrow. He is Stephen, wake up. Sorry, he's snoozing behind the camera there. I think he's playing Clash of Clans or something. JW is back. He's got no other commitments, so he had to come in tonight. JW, it's great to have you back. Of course, Colin is hiding in the shadows of the booth there. He is wearing a red, is that a red sweater from Sesame Street maybe? I'm not sure. It looks good on you. And of course, Ernie. It's your mom's sweater. Sorry, it's his mom's sweater. Sorry about that. Hi, Colin's mom's sweater. And of course, Ernie's back there working his magic. So we're all happy you, ladies and gentlemen, are here with us tonight. We're going to take a 30-second break. We're going to bring Jacob Lucky in from the green room. He's getting a massage. He's almost done, so I had to extend the cold open a little bit. And he's going to run us through the LX amplifiers, going deep dive, telling you guys and girls what you really want to know. So be back in 30 seconds.
It's been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Hey, welcome back. Did you guys notice the new logo? I just caught it just now. We have a new logo for 2025, the new UnMasked logo. So be sure to take note of that. And I think it's a pickup this year.
I think it is. I didn't realize we implemented that now. But
we
yeah,
did,
absolutely.
for show. Yeah, new year. And of course, this is Jacob Lucky.
Yeah, you guys know me. Nobody important.
Oh, stop it. As suave as ever. But so Jacob, you've been working on a couple of projects. Tell us about what you've been working on.
So the most recent one that I've been working on is for Skills USA. And you guys know me and Aaron are super involved in Skills USA. It's a program that students compete in, everything from like cosmetology to construction. And we have a mobile electronics section. So we're both on the technical committee for the mobile electronics portion, and we get to kind of work on like the curriculum and what kinds of things the students are going to be tested on. So we've been updating a couple of our competition rigs, and I built a few new ones basically for the alarm section. Do we have pictures of that we can pull up?
You know what?
But if not, it's no big deal. I think I can describe it, but it's kind of like a 2-foot by 2-foot board with a single DIN radio cutout in the center of it, and made out of ABS plastic material so that it's water resistant, durable, really lightweight. And then I made some kind of like delta-shaped legs for it out of expanded PVC.
Delta shape?
Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of like a delta wing bomber or something like that. It's kind of a cool shape, but...
Ernie, pull up my laptop, please.
Anyways, super cool little things. They're designed to be set up and broken down really quickly. So there's what it looks like from the front. You can see that single DIN radio cutout, and then on the 4 corners, I use thumb screws to secure it to those expanded ABS bits. And then here's a side view of the legs. You can see that cross brace, and then just pretty simple, straightforward. But the idea is so that we can break them down and store them for long periods of time, and if any water gets to them, it's not going to be a problem. And then they're easy to set up. So that's what I've been working on this last week. And then another thing that John and I were working on, part of the Christmas season for John and I is doing kind of stereo system installs for people as gifts. And I'm sure a lot of you guys that have shops get like an influx around Christmas time too. But one of the employees here, his mom had I think it was a 2014 Impala. And it wasn't like a Bose system or anything, and we thought it was going to be a pretty straightforward install, and it was not. Not being a Bose vehicle, we didn't think that there was going to be like a factory amplifier or anything in it, and there was. It's in the back of the car on the passenger side, and then we were trying to find like what kind of a signal we could use, and it was really weird because the front door speakers were crossed over at like 120 hertz.
And down.
Yeah. And then the dash speakers were playing basically from there and up. Which, if you were just going to pop some new speakers in the vehicle...
But the dash speaker,
yeah, they're like 2 3/4. Which if you're just going to throw, some new speakers in on the factory system, it would be all right. You wouldn't have any gaps in the sound. We installed a Key 200.4 amplifier and tried to bi-amp it. And one thing that the Key does when you bi-amp it is it applies its own crossover points to amp 1. And depending on the size of the speaker, it can be like a 5K crossover or like a 800,
300
700, something like that hertz crossover for a smaller 2 3/4 inch speaker. So with the front door speakers crossed over at 100, and then the keys trying to apply its own crossover at like 700, there was a really big gap in the sound, like no mid-range vocals at all. So we ended up having to like finagle the signal around, and we used the rear door signal for the front doors so that we could get enough of a signal to get the mid-range back into the system. So it was just one of those things, like an install got much more complicated than you thought it was going to be when you first were jumping into it. So
I love talking about this because it shows the need to have a RTA at your disposal. Because in order to figure out what was going on and why it sounded so weird, you had to use an RTA to figure out what was coming through those wires.
Yeah, I had to break out the RTA and just pretty much probed each channel at that factory amplifier, and the only channel that was really usable for like a mid-range signal at all was coming from the rear doors. So,
and you guys had to use a key lock, right?
Yeah, we used a key lock for the 2 3/4 in the dash, and that made that signal very flat and gave us a little bit more on the bottom end. But because of what we were trying to do, we still had to mess around with the inputs to the key 200.4. So,
yeah, it's cool. And I like the fact that this is a normal, everyday car. This is not some premium Bose system or a Mark Levinson system or whatever. It's something normal that people are going to run into every day. And it didn't stump you guys, but it made you scratch your head going, this was supposed to be an hour job, and here we are 3 hours later.
Yeah, it certainly took us a little bit longer than we thought. But, you know, the good thing is that Steven's mom, or not Steven's mom, Spencer's mom really, sorry, Steven's right there, and he's like, I looked at him. Anyway, Spencer's mom really enjoys the sound system, and she'll be driving around. Spencer told us that she would drive around and just listen to the music in her car. She'd never had anything like that before, so it's kind of a cool thing.
Awesome. Well, we should probably talk about the amplifiers because everybody wants to know about the amplifiers. So, Ernie, oh wait, we got a question here. Something really annoying with the newer vehicles, too. Oh yeah, ANC.
Yeah, ANC, active noise cancellation.
Yes.
That'll get you if you're not aware of it. And a couple ways to get rid of it. You can find like the cam sensor, crank sensor. I can't remember. There's a wire that you can clip, and or you can disconnect all the microphones in the headliner. So a couple ways around it, but if you don't know that it's in a car and you think you're done and you send the car out the door and the customer's getting weird noises, it can cause them to bring the car back because it's not working how they expect it to.
Motorboating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk subwoofer or amplifiers now. Let's go to the amplifier.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so what I've got right here, guys, this is going to be the new LX amplifier. We've all been waiting for it for a really long time, and now we finally get to talk about it. So the one that I have here, actually on this display, is the LX 1300.7. But we have a couple different models, and actually I'm just going to start from the top on these guys. So we have two different chassis sizes. This chassis is the larger chassis, and this will house the 1200.5 5-channel, the 1300.7 7-channel amplifier, and the 3000.1 monoblock LX amplifier. And this chassis is going to be 12 9/16 inches long and 8 9/16 inches in height. Now, the height is going to stay the same across all models, but we have one other chassis size that is smaller than this one. It is 9 5/16, so it'll probably be, about yay big. And that houses the 850.1, 1250.1, 1650.1, and 500.4 amplifiers. So the idea around all of these amplifiers is that they are extremely flexible, extremely versatile, and they're going to give you more adjustment than you guys probably need in a vehicle, but it's available if you guys want to do it. So I would basically consider this like jack of all trades amplifier. So 1300.7, there are a couple cool things that you guys can do with it. So the first one is you can run an active 3-way front stage with the subwoofer, because you can go in and set all of your crossover points, time delay, things like that inside the amplifier using the control. You could also do like a two-way front stage with rear fill speakers in the back, or you could bridge amp 3 since it's lower powered than the other two amps. You can bridge amp 3 for like a center dash speaker and then have an active two-way front stage, or like full range channels with the center channel. There's so many different things you can do with this amplifier. And the thing that I want to show you guys is that it is super quick and super easy to set up. You don't need like a separate GUI or a separate program on your computer or anything like that, because it's all going to be right here in the remote control. So let's get that close up on the amplifier and the remote control, and I'll just give you guys a quick breakdown of everything that this amplifier can do. So right off the bat, you guys will notice this thing pops off. It's held on by magnets, and it reveals, let me see if I can make sure you guys can see that. It reveals a bunch of LEDs underneath that kind of backlight that KICKER logo. And if you guys want to install it one way or the other, it is reversible. So if you want your wires, oh, we're going to break the new amplifier. So if you want your wires facing one way or the other, you absolutely have the ability to do that. So now all of your in-panel controls are going to be covered up underneath this magnetic strip that goes over the top here. And you guys will notice on the 7-channel, you only have 4 potentiometers. That's because everything else is done using the remote control over here. So you're going to have amp 1 gain, amp 2 gain, amp 3 gain, and your sub gain. That's all you have access to here. Again, everything else is done through the remote control. You've got your DC offset turn on switch here, so now you can tell your amplifier whether you want it to turn on using a remote signal or the DC offset function. You also have separate, you'll notice you guys can't see it, but there is a separate high level plug on this amplifier now. So one of the things we wanted to do is also make these as compact as possible, because we know that you guys are putting these in really tight spaces, a lot of vehicles, spaces at a premium, and we don't want to take up as much of that space as we can. So once you've got your gain set, your DC offset and everything, all your wires connected, you're going to pop that cover back on.
Hey, Jacob, real quick.
Yes.
DC offset. For the folks that don't know DC offset, this is how the amplifier can be turned on and off using a factory installed audio system and not having to find a remote trigger. This is super useful when you're doing OE integration or original equipment integration to a car. So with the factory media center, it will tell the amp to turn on and off without having to find a separate trigger. And that's why we use DC offset on all of our amplifiers, all the way down to the CX amplifiers as well.
Yep. And to piggyback off what you just said, if you don't have a 12-volt remote turn on in the vehicle, but let's say you have an LX amplifier and another amp that can't turn on using DC offset, then the 12-volt output will turn into, or excuse me, the 12-volt input will turn into a 12-volt output. And now this amp turns on and then turns on every other amp in the signal chain. So it's pretty cool. One other thing I want to show you guys, on the top of the amp here, there is a LED or button that controls the color of the LEDs. So if you press that, you'll cycle from like some cool colors like blue and indigo, then you get into some lighter colors, cyan, green, orange, yellow. Yeah, you have all sorts of colors. You even have a brightness adjustment here in the center. So it's kind of hard to see on camera. But if you guys want to match like the interior lighting of a vehicle, some vehicles now are, actually a lot of vehicles now are coming with factory interior lighting. You've got a whole ton of colors and brightnesses, and you can match it to pretty much any vehicle on the road. And then there's a reset button here. And to reset the entire amp and the DSP inside, you're going to press and hold that reset button for 10 seconds. It's a really, really long 10 seconds. You're not going to push it by accident. I mean, somebody might, but I think it would be pretty hard to do.
Cautionary tale. If you do reset, it sets all of your crossovers to full range. So if you've got some tweeters running full range, that could be a serious problem with that 125 watts per channel RMS or the 65 watt lower power. So do not hit reset unless you're sure you know what you're going to do.
Yep.
So
now I will say, when I was in tech support, and I'm going to talk about a different amplifier for just a second, but the KX amps had a little flap that covered up the in-panel controls. I would get calls all the time from guys that didn't even know those amplifiers had controls on them because the in panel was on and covering up all your potentiometers and everything. So I imagine it'll be a similar type situation for your customer if they're not familiar with audio. They may not know that it has any controls on it at all with that cover on. It looks pretty sleek and smooth and all buttoned up. But let's go through the functions on the controller really quick. I'm going to step over here so I can grab it easy and then show you guys exactly what it can do. So Ernie, let's switch me over. There we go. And let's go through, what do we want to do first?
Let's do an active three-way component system and sub.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. So right here, I'll break down the functions really quick. This first knob is labeled, they're all labeled here on the top, but the first knob is going to be a gain trim knob. And with the gain trim, you can adjust that and cut your gain between amp 1, amp 2, whichever amp you have selected. You can cut up to 9 dB on this knob and then boost it up to 3 dB. So this is useful if you're listening to your system and you've got like an active three-way setup, and let's say your tweeters are a little bit hot and you want to dial them back to match the mids, or maybe you need to add just a little bit more gain back to that system. You can do that with that gain trim. There is a little clip indicator right here. You guys can't see it on camera, but that will light up when you clip the amplifier. So if you're boosting or adding any gain back into it, you know exactly what you're getting into. Your second knob is labeled high pass and your third knob is labeled low pass. Now this is where you set your crossover points. So for amp 1, I want this to be my mid-range driver. So
2 3/4 inch?
yes, let's do a 2 3/4. So I'll set my low pass filter here to about, let's say, oh, I'm on my subwoofer channel. I must have, somebody was messing with this thing.
That was me. I'm sorry. I was learning.
Okay, so now we're on amp 1. So let's set our low pass down to, I don't know. What should we, let's go, if we're doing 2 3/4.
So you're probably going to do your tweeter high pass at like 4K?
Right, so we don't want this to play any lower, I'm going to say any lower than 500 hertz.
Oh, yeah. So, wait, you're setting your high pass or your low pass?
I'm setting my low pass.
So you want about 5K?
5K, you're right.
5K and down.
No. Okay, so this is going to be about 500 hertz, and then I want my high pass to be set around, let's say, hang on, I'm drawing a blank here. I'm sorry, guys, this happens sometimes.
You're setting up a bandpass filter.
Right.
So we want the tweeter to play about 4K and up, so the 2 3/4 will play 4K and down.
Right.
To where the mid-bass takes over.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the problem with doing it live, folks, is that when your brain vapor locks, everyone gets to see it. So
yep, it's just part of the job, man.
It happens. The funny thing is, Jacob and I are headed to Las Vegas at the end of this month. We're going to be doing a Knowledge Fest training there, and he's going to be doing this training in front of a live audience. And
so this is good practice.
This is practice for that. So yeah, good job.
Okay, so let's say, so low pass. We want this probably at like 3.2, or no, you know what? Let's do like 800. I'm sorry, guys. Let's do our high pass at 500. There we go. And then you're right, let's set our low pass to 5K.
There we go.
There. So that's going to allow that mid-range tweeter, or excuse me, 2 3/4 inch. See, I'll tell you guys what's going on. So the last several times I've done this, I've used my amp 1 as my tweeter. So like I'm having this brain fart where I'm trying to set it for tweeter crossovers. And anyway, you guys don't need to do that.
Let me explain real quick. So amp 3 is actually a lower powered amp stage because tweeters don't need 125 watts RMS. So we're using amp 3 to power just the tweeters at 65 watts RMS per tweeter. So there's still plenty of power, but this is why Jacob's vapor locking, because he's not accustomed. He was actually doing, I think you're doing a center channel last time. And so for a center channel, you would actually bridge the lower powered channels, amp 3, for that center channel. So that's why Jacob's brain is getting screwed up here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just fried. But anyway, so we can come here and cycle from amp 1. So we've got that set up properly. Let's go to amp 2, and I want this to be like my mid-bass drivers, right? So I will set my high pass to about, let's do 80 hertz.
Good starting point.
And then where did we set off? I think, let me cycle back so I can see where I set off on amp 1, and about 500 hertz. So I'm going to set this down to 500 hertz so that my mid-bass drivers don't play any higher than my 2 3/4 inch speakers in the dash. Now I'm going to cycle to amp 3, and these are going to be my tweeters. So in this case, I'll set my high pass to about 5, what did I have my amp 1 set to here?
I think you went
5K, yeah.
5, yeah.
So I'll just run this all the way up to 5K. So now our tweeters are going to play 5K and up. Our 2 3/4 inch speakers are going to play 5K down to 500 hertz. So they're not overextending from playing too much bass. And then our mid-bass drivers are going to play from about 500 hertz down to 80 hertz. So now let's cycle to our subwoofer channel. And this is also where, you know, they're going to be still labeled high pass and low pass, but what you guys will know them as is subsonic filter and then your low pass filter. So our subsonic, let's say we've got a ported box that's tuned at like, I don't know, 35 hertz, and we want to set our low pass filter at about half octave below the tuning frequency of the box. So that would be about 27 hertz or so, 28 hertz. That'll protect your subwoofer from overextending, from playing way too low, and then we'll set our low pass to about 80 hertz because that's where we wanted our mid-bass drivers to end up. So once you get the hang of the controller, and I know I had some farts going on here, but once you get the hang of the controller and you guys know what you're punching into these things, you can dial in a sound system really, really fast in just about any car on the road. Once you get this amplifier plopped in, get your crossovers point set, and you're good to go.
I want to, before we jump ahead, don't forget that.
Dude, you guys,
don't forget your
I'm not
chart.
explaining.
That was a dinner conversation, which we will not discuss. But one thing about these crossovers that we haven't talked about yet is the fact that the crossover slopes are adjustable as well.
Yeah. So if you guys will look here, I'm going to stand up again. And I'm a little wobbly because it was leg day at the gym today, which Aaron says I'm pointing out too much. But anyway,
you said it 5 times.
You can come over here and set your crossover slope. If you've got it set to Linkwitz-Riley, you can do a 12 dB or 24 dB per octave slope. You can press your crossover type button here and cycle between Butterworth and Linkwitz-Riley slopes. So if you go to Butterworth, you now have access to 12, 18, and 24 dB per octave slopes. So you guys can dial in the system however you want. If you want your mid-bass drivers to play maybe a little bit lower, but still have your crossover point set at 80 hertz, you can drop the slope to 12 dB. You know, there's tons of adjustability built into this thing. But I usually like to do a Linkwitz-Riley at 24 dB per octave because phase is pretty well in line with those crossovers. Now, when you cycle to your subwoofer here, this phase button illuminates. You can push that and flip your sub in or out of phase. And then you can also change your, you guys remember, we have this thing called KICKER on some of our amplifiers. We have KICKER Plus on this. So now you can change your bandwidth, which is going to be your Q factor for the KICKER. If you push the knob in, it will cycle to the amount that you boost with your KICKER. And we're just going to max that out just for fun, because we all know we like to crank up the bass boost. Oh, we've only got 6 dB of boost there. And now you can change your center frequency as well. So if you guys have a little gap in your sound that you want to fill at like 45 hertz, you can set it there. If you set a really low Q, it'll be a very narrow amount of boost. I think the narrowest it goes, yeah, it's down to 1. I think you have also up to 10 on the Q, which is crazy wide. Up to 5, okay. And then, yeah, 6 dB of boost. So super cool. KICKER Plus just allows you to get a little bit more adjustability out of that amplifier.
Pause real quick. I got to let everybody know that the contest is ending at 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
And we are just a few minutes from 8. So
2.5
contest
minutes.
ends at 8. You're welcome, Colin. Okay, continue, Jacob. Sorry about that interruption.
No worries. So let's cycle back to like amplifier 1 here. So that phase button changes to a channel mode button. So what you can do here is set it to stereo, mono, left plus right. If you want to bridge those outputs, that would be a good setting. Or if you're doing like a center channel, you can set that to mono, left plus right. Or if you want to do rear speakers with just kind of like some ambient noise or rear fill, you can set it to mono, left minus right. So lots of different things you can do with this controller. And then the really nice thing for you dealers out there who are going to be installing this in customer vehicles, when you're done tuning the amplifier, unplug the remote, and now your customer can't change anything about your tune, and you can plug in the bass knob in the same port that the remote used. So the bass knob is also really cool. It also has multiple functions. What you guys see right now, the LEDs are lit up about halfway, and that kind of acts like a voltage meter for your amplifier. Each one of those little dots, I think, is a half volt division. So you can kind of guesstimate where your voltage is in the vehicle at a glance by checking out your bass knob. You can turn your gain up and down. There's a clip indicator on it, and you can also turn your shock feature on and off.
Shock
on the gain knob, which is essentially bass restoration. So if you guys are listening to a digital recording, doesn't have a whole lot of bass, or really any recording that doesn't have a whole lot of bass to it, like traditional music, old music,
old
things
guys.
like that,
Yeah,
you can turn that shock up, and it will synthesize bass from the upper octaves in your music and give that bass back to the track. So you can use the subwoofers you paid for, you know?
Hey, Chris. Chris Jack, Skills USA.
Oh, hey, what's going on,
Good
Chris?
evening. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
And a couple other things about that bass knob. When you change the color on your amplifier, now the color on the bass knob also changes to match the color on the amplifier. So again, if you guys are trying to match interior lighting, it's very easy to do so. That bass knob can be mounted flush, and it comes with a sweet little bracket that you can mount to the bottom of your dash as well. What we've done here is we've actually cut that bracket into pieces and flush mounted it, and then put the bracket kind of flush up against this piece here. So super cool amplifiers. You can do a lot of stuff with them, and I'm excited to see what you guys do in the field with them.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, and I want to make sure that we don't gloss over too much of it, because with a 7-channel amplifier, you can do a fully active 4-way system: tweeter, mid-range, mid-bass, subwoofer. Or, as Jacob pointed out earlier, you could bridge amp 3 to a center channel. So now you've got an active center channel with its own crossover points. You've got active tweeter, active mid-range, mid-bass, and subwoofer. Or the other option, you could do a front active 2-way system, tweeter, mid-range, and then the rear fill. And in the old days, I think we called it, I think it was the Hafler effect. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the Hafler effect was where you take left minus right. So all you're left with in the signal is anything that was not in the center, like voices. Basically, it takes out the vocals, kind of like a cheap karaoke machine, and it just gives you the ambiance, the rear fill. So it gives you a more realistic, wider, deeper sound stage without actually adding a separate processor or an up mixer. So it's very, very flexible amplifier with all these options. And we didn't talk about time delay.
I was going to say, speaking of soundstage, yeah, you reminded me. I completely glossed over that. Probably in the middle of my brain fart.
There's a lot to talk about.
So one thing that I didn't mention is you do have access to time delay with this amplifier, and it's going to be adjusting the left channel only of whatever amp you're adjusting. So let's make sure that we are on amp 1 here. There we go. So this one is illuminated time delay right now, since we're on a full range channel. So when you change that time delay knob, you'll add milliseconds in 1/10 of millisecond increments. You can add all the way up to 10 milliseconds of time delay on your left speaker anywhere in the vehicle. So this way, if you guys are doing an active front stage, you can make sure that all of your left speakers are aligned to what you're hearing from the right side of the car. So it'll give you a really nice center image without having to do the whole DSP thing. And you know, you can extend the cable, sit in the driver's seat with this controller, and as you turn that knob, you can actually listen and hear where that sound stage is centered on the dash. So it's a lot of stuff to talk about, but when you guys get these amplifiers and start putting them in cars, you're going to discover that they're very simple to work with, and you can get repeatable good results with them.
Yes. We've got a bunch of questions that we kind of have
let's
ignored.
answer some questions.
Let's take some questions before we go any further. What's the first question?
This LX looks real legit. Is it powder coated? I don't know.
It is.
It is powder coated.
Yeah, it is powder coated. Good question. Very simple. Thank you.
Are the magnets strong enough to hold the plate on with lots of vibration? Jeremy, yes, they are. So they're little Neo magnets, and they're actually pretty stout. Like, if you don't have the technique down to remove that magnet from the amplifier, you're not going to get it out. It took me a little bit of practice to actually be able to pry it loose repeatedly. At first I was struggling with it, but now I can just like pop it off. And you'll just have to get your hands on it and feel it. But yeah, they're very, very stout magnets. I was so impressed with these amplifiers at SEMA. I can't wait to get my hands on some of them. Well done, Kicker. My clients will love them. That is awesome to hear, Paul. Thanks for the feedback. And it was nice to see you at the SEMA booth. What else do we have? Are you able to change the way the cable comes out of the controller? Roger, great question. No, the cable comes out of the controller just on the side. It's not like, you can't like reposition it. I guess if you wanted to mount it, what I would suggest doing is like drilling a little hole next to it and making sure that as little of that cable is seen, but really the controller wasn't designed to be mounted. There will be people who want to do that, and
John Myers.
Yeah, and John Myers. There will be situations where you want to mount it, but in most cases that controller is designed to be used and then unplugged and then kept at the shop, or kept somewhere where somebody's not going to be messing with it.
Side note, you have to disconnect the controller to plug in the bass knob. They use the same port.
Yep.
It's a RJ45, Cat 5. So really there's no reason to mount that controller because you got to disconnect it to plug in the bass knob anyway. So good question.
Is
Brian.
there?
I'm sorry. Hi, Brian. I just want to say hello.
Brian.
Welcome to Stillwater.
What's going on? So Brian asked, is there a plan for a marine version in the future? This is a perfect amp for a 4-zone boat. I like the way you think, Brian. And I don't...
Not today.
Not today. I won't say that it won't happen because, we generally tend to have marine versions of our car audio amplifiers. But today, the answer is no.
Good question.
I know you can't tell us everything, but is that remote port going to be forward compatible for, say, a DSP add-on? Sean, great question. I don't know. I know that, well, I don't know. I'm just going to stop. We are looking at some things, and they may or may not come to fruition. So,
Joe Hobart will be in the studio with me in a few weeks, and we'll be doing amp dynos, so you can ask him that question.
Yeah, definitely ask Joe when he gets on the show.
Yeah.
What do you guys prefer for a crossover? Linkwitz Riley or Butterworth? Great question. Sean, personally, I prefer Linkwitz Riley 24 dB per octave. When I'm setting up a car audio system, I just that's my go-to, and I use it. And if I notice if I'm having like any irregularities or anything, then I'll break out the microphone and an RTA and look at kind of what's going on with the frequency response. And honestly, you can just play around with them and see what you think sounds better. But that's my answer. What do you prefer?
I'm Linkwitz too. I'm the simplest guy. And I don't have the ears that these guys have, so I just go for 24 dB Linkwitz Riley, and I just set everything like that. And unless I have a real major problem, I just leave it.
I think Aaron maybe has the best ears out of any of us because he never listens to loud music.
Stop it!
I'm not going to start it on him again today, but maybe just for a little bit. But anytime he listens to music, it's like super quiet and like there's water trickling in the background, and it's pretty funny.
Zen, Musa, Musa.
Is the center removable piece stainless? It appears to also be powder coated, but I know we've made some accommodations for it because we know that people are going to be painting them. So they've done some things like, you could strip it if you want to, and the backside's got this really shiny plate on it, but the front side, you could probably sand it down and just paint it. It looks like that plastic logo might be removable. I'm not sure, but I don't want to give you any crazy ideas, but we kind of figured people would be painting them, so we designed them to be painted. So how many different models of the LX are going to be released at once? Great question, Smooth Brain.
All of them.
So we've got 7 different models. We have 4 monoblocks, 850.1, 1250.1, 1650, and 3000.1. And then we have a 500.4, 1200.5, and a 1300.7. So in total, we have 7 models of amplifiers. 3 of them are multi-channel, 4 are going to be monoblocks.
And they're all coming soon.
Yeah, shipping.
That's all we're allowed to say.
Soon.
Soon. Shipping
very,
soon.
very soon.
Yes.
Andy, is the time delay feature only on the left for easier tuning? And since it's setting you up for a driver's side tune, I haven't messed with time delay much. Yeah, pretty much, Andy. It's just going to be like a set it by ear type thing. And since you're only adjusting the one speaker, you can hear where that stage is going to fall. Because generally, when you're adding time delay to a system, you pick a reference speaker that's the farthest speaker away from the listener's position, and then you add delay to everything else to match that that speaker's like distance in time, I guess is the way to put it. So the idea is you're just trying to match that left speaker to whatever speaker on the right side you're using. Great question. Up to what power woofer can we connect? Is it 1 ohm stable? Great question.
It is 1 ohm stable. The sub channels are 1 ohm stable on the 7 and 5, and of course all the monos are 1 ohm stable. And you get 700 RMS at 1 ohm out of the multi-channel amplifiers, so it's plenty of power. In fact, we haven't done it yet, but we're planning to power up the new dual L7T12 downfiring enclosure with the 700 watt sub channel, and I'm sure it'll be plenty. So it'll hammer.
I'll tell you guys something too. When we were building these displays, we had to take the amps out of the box, and the berth sheets that came with these things are absolutely monstrous. The 1300.7 amplifier right here was producing over 1700 watts on the berth sheet. It's just a monstrous amplifier, and these made way more power than we initially expected them to.
So funny story. We actually had to change the model numbers for the bass amps because they were all making way more power than they were originally designed to. And so we decided, you know what, let's raise the power ratings on these because they're ridiculously powerful. So yes, they make plenty and plenty of power.
All right, do we have any other questions? What if you used a splitter? Could the remote and bass knob be connected at once? Great question, Sean. The answer is unfortunately no, because they both use kind of like data communication, so they would chatter and interrupt one another. Like one would have to take precedence, I think, over the other. But we did play around with the idea of maybe using some kind of like a switcher and maybe like a box with a relay or something to hit a switch, and you might be able to use one or the other, but we haven't tested it, we don't recommend it, but we've talked about it. Let's do 1 or 2 more if they're available, and if not, then we can move on to
we got more stuff.
What line of amplifiers is the LX replacing? So the LX amplifier is going to kind of come in and be like a IQ and KX kind of...
amalgam?
Yeah, amalgam. That's a good word for it. So I would say it's not really replacing anything. It's its own thing, but I think it's going to carve out a pretty cool spot in the market, considering everything it can do and how simple it is to set up. You don't need anything extra. A lot of shops don't have laptops in the bay or computers in the bay, so it'd be a good thing to get your hands on some kind of a DSP, some kind of processing, but also it's very easy to be repeatable with this thing. And speaking of crossover points, we have a sheet that one of our engineers has come up with, and it's got all recommended crossover points for different sizes of speakers.
Ernie, can you pull up my laptop,
So
please?
if you guys are hooking speakers up to these amplifiers, you're doing an active system, and let's say you've got a 6x8 and you're not sure where to set that crossover. According to the sheet, we recommend that you set it at 90 hertz, 12 dB per octave. And these are all going to be different based on the size and the capability of those speakers, how low they can play. We recommended 12 dB per octave crossovers because that's what we have on our CX amplifiers. But of course, with the LX amplifier, you have a little bit more flexibility. You have the capability to do 18 or 24 dB per octave crossovers. But this will be available publicly to you guys and on the website at some point once we get it finalized and looking pretty and everything. So
thanks, Jeremy Brown.
Yep, thanks,
He put
Jeremy.
it together for us today, actually. He's fast.
Yeah, does great work. All right, so what do you say we get going on to the technical Q&A and all that jazz?
Okay, so here's the first question from the Q&A. What does the dual L7T truck-specific enclosure, or why does it only come in 12-inch for the GMC Chevy? Us Dodge guys like 12-inch subs too. This is a great question, and the truthful, simple answer is airspace. If you put a 12-inch driver in a box that's just too small, you're going to suffer low-end, deep bass response. And so a 10-inch driver in the right airspace will outperform a 12-inch driver in the wrong airspace. And that's simply why we did it. We wanted those enclosures to fit in the vast majority of trucks in their category. So that's why we chose to go with the 10s for the Ram and the Ford and the 12s and the GMC Chevy. That's it. Simple. Good
Pretty
question.
straightforward answer, yeah.
Next question. Will the remote gain on a Warhorse 3601 still function during competition mode? No. And the reason why is if you go into competition mode, at that point you're going to be using a single DSP or maybe our universal level control to control all the bass amps simultaneously. So you don't want to have multiple gain stages because that just mucks everything up. So it bypasses the remote gain input when you're in competition mode.
Awesome.
So that's it.
Great.
2 questions. Good questions. What else we got?
I think Ernie got some fail picks for us.
Fail picks.
Ernie. I don't know if Ernie included it on this episode, but I was like browsing online and I got an ad for Temu that was like a car stereo. Yeah, so Ernie says it's there, but I got an ad for Temu that was advertising like some adapters basically for power and ground cabling. And well, I'll just let you guys see it when we get to it.
All right, Ernie, pull me up. So Ernie told me, I said, Ernie, what is that? He said, this is a hands-free microphone. And this, of course, is the cable for the hands-free microphone. And then this is, you know what? It didn't fit, so let's just run a bolt through it.
I saw that somewhere. I don't remember where.
But I'm guessing in this older vehicle, they didn't care so much about the form of it, more so the function.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those situations where I hope there is not an airbag behind that pillar.
That's a really good point. That would be very bad.
Not anymore, he says.
So this is what you were talking about.
Yeah. So I just found this. This was popping up a Temu ad for me. So I was looking at it and I noticed that the power and ground cables are different sizes, first of all, and second of all, they're touching. Like those adapters are touching each other, and at that point you would have already blown your fuse. But I just was like, man, you guys are hitting the right audience with your ad, but you don't know what you're doing with the advertising. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty funny.
That's good stuff. I got to zoom in on this.
Is that a home? What is it?
So what I think this is a 12-inch subwoofer that has been drywalled into something.
Oh, dude, that is drywall, isn't it?
So
there's something on the woofer also.
Yeah, there's some schmutz on the woofer itself, but it's definitely been drywalled into something. And it's for sale, $200 for best offer. So if that's all you got in your budget, give it a try.
Yeah.
No guarantees.
Maybe don't give it a try. I don't know.
All right, so those
No, it's drywall.
those are our fails, Ernie. Let's look at some cool picks.
Yeah, I know we've got some cool stuff to show off.
We got some cool picks, and see. Oh, first of all, here. Let's run this video. This is so cool. So without even seeing the label, you guys can tell who made that gorgeous enclosure. Absolutely, it's Gately. And that thing is so beautiful. I mean, I'd be afraid to put that in my car just because of scratching it.
Well, yeah, and
Dust.
something else I thought about too while looking at it is how careful you have to be during assembly to make sure that you don't get any fingerprints or
Yes.
any oil or dust or anything on the inside of that box, because if you do and then you put it together, you're going to see it forever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
unless it's on the inside of the port or something and you can just clean it off, but man, that you'd have to be so careful putting that box together to make sure that nothing gets on it or nothing scrapes it.
Absolutely gorgeous. And then from our friends at Pro Audio Center,
Yeah, these guys do awesome work. If you've never seen anything from Pro Audio Center.
they've been a guest on the show several times, probably 3 or 4 times. Jimmy and the guys, and the work they do is just unbelievable. So what they've got is our KM, I think they're 8s, the KM8.
It's hard for me to tell in pictures like
Yeah,
that.
the perspective.
Yeah,
So this is an 8-inch
Look at
driver
that.
behind each headrest. So you've got, what I think, 3 pair of speakers, and of course you got a subwoofer behind each of the seats as well. And that's an SSV Works enclosure. So you buy the enclosure, and then they put the woofer into it and load it in to the slingshot. Oh yeah, there's the pile of gear. So there's 4 sets of the 8-inch speakers. And then they're using our PXA 1000.5 all-weather waterproof amplifier. That's the one we had in a fish tank here in the studio for a year before
I
it failed.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
And that amplifier actually, if you're going to Las Vegas for Knowledge Fest, come by our training, because we're going to be revealing some interesting capabilities of that amplifier.
We've got some new stuff to share with you guys.
So we can't talk about it right now, but if you're going to Knowledge Fest, you'll be able to see what we're talking about there, and you're going to go, what? That's pretty awesome.
Oh, and side note, if you guys want to see more about the fish tank amplifier, we did an episode on it. Actually, maybe a couple episodes. But I remember there was one where we took it to electronic repair and disassembled it to see
Yes.
if, what exactly went wrong and all that good stuff. Because eventually, after a year straight of being underwater and having to top off the fish tank every couple of weeks, it did finally bite the dust. And, what we think... Not because of water,
It wasn't water.
but we
Low
left it
voltage.
hooked up to a battery and did not disconnect it, and just ran it down on low voltage like over the course of a couple of days, and it was just cycling on and off from low voltage protection, and eventually it just killed the amplifier.
Yep.
So
as Joe Hobart told us, every time you hit your low voltage protection in an amplifier, you kill a little bit of silicone. And eventually, there's no silicone left to kill, so it actually will kill the amplifier. And it's repairable, but that's why you don't want to be running a low voltage situation consistently, constantly. So that is that, and
we got to do our contest winners, right? Or
we got a couple events
coming up.
Arena Cross is going to be in Guthrie, Oklahoma, which is about 45 minutes from here. So if you're in the area and you want to check out a really cool show, Kicker Arena Cross at the Lazy E Ranch, and it's an indoor venue. It's really nice. Arena. What? Arena.
It's
yeah.
Lazy E Arena.
Lazy. Sorry, I've been there once, and it was a great show. My gosh. Also, we're doing a Parts Unlimited and Drag Specialties NVP event, and that is going to be. Is that Milwaukee? Louisville, Kentucky. And JW and Bambro are going to be up there working that show, I think with Lori as well. And that's a good show if you're in the area. And then, as I already mentioned, Knowledge Fest in Las Vegas. Jacob and I are going to be there doing that show at the very end of this month, early next month. And that's a great show. You do have to be in the industry to go to that or know someone who can get you in. But it's a great event. And it's just a cool time. You get to meet a lot of the guys in the industry, guys and girls in the industry, and check out some new products. And as I said, Jacob's doing a training there. And we're going to introduce something really cool that has to do with the PXA amplifiers. So those are the events coming up. Prizes. Okay, so we do have some winners. Let's go. Third place prize is the EB400s, 2 koozies, and the limited edition t-shirt. Winner number 3, Larry W. from Oklahoma.
Nice.
Larry,
He's on our home turf.
congratulations. And Larry, if you're local and you want to just drive up here and pick it up, do that, and we'll greet you at the door. So let us know. Number 2 winner, you get the TW2 in-ear bud monitors, true wireless, 2 koozies t-shirt. Number 2, Brian P. from Texas. You're a little further away, but you're certainly welcome to come up, Brian P. First place winner, BF100 t-shirt, 2 koozies. First place, Valerie R. from California. That's a really long drive. We'll just ship it to you. So thank you to our winners for being here. And I do want you to know that Andy is going to do his after show tonight. He's feeling up to the challenge, so be sure to tune in for Andy's after show. And then next Tuesday at 7:30, Andy's doing Living Loud with Andy. And then our next show is going to be Tuesday, January 21st. So Tuesday, January 21st will be our next show. We would love to see you guys and girls there. Do we have a last question that popped up and then went away?
Yeah, talking about Wayne Harris and his Terminator build.
Oh, yeah.
So from what I understand, it's an old hearse, and it's got like a super old school car stereo build in it. Yep. So to translate Ernie speak into what you guys need to know, it's all on the YouTube channel DBTV. He's showing you guys everything he's doing, tearing it down, all that good stuff. So
Okay, right here.
yeah, Wayne's a good guy. We used his software, Term Pro, and tech support for box design, all that good stuff.
We don't want to see her. She's selling us something. We don't want to see what she's selling us. Okay, there we go.
At least it wasn't a Temu ad showing you the wrong way to do something.
So that's Wayne. So yeah, check that out. He's just a character. He's a great dude. He's been on our show a couple of times as well. So
Man, he is so excited to talk about that thing. I can just tell.
you know, he might actually be a genius. I've never asked him, but I suspect he's a genius. The guy is
Well, he's
off the
gotta be,
charts
man.
smart.
All the stuff he's done for the industry and
gosh.
just insane. He's a legend. Jason's right.
Oh, he was also on oh God, what's that TV show? Mythbusters. He was on Mythbusters.
Was he really?
Many years ago. They were wondering if you could blow up a car with subwoofers, and he was the expert they contacted.
Wow, that's
He's the right guy.
Really cool. Well, I think Kyle Clippo Rutherford would have to say yes. You can blow up a car with subwoofers.
Yes, you can. All right, folks, thank you all for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure. The first show of the new year, 2025. We look forward to seeing you on the 21st, January 21st. We look forward to seeing you guys and girls then. Any final thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, the only one that I've got is thank you guys for hanging with me until I get the rust knocked off. It was a long holiday break, and it's my first time doing like a training type thing since the holiday season. So I appreciate you guys being patient.
And if you get a gift from Jacob in the mail and it's a mason jar, don't open it. Don't open it.
Dude.
That's all. Let's go home. Good night.
See you guys. Have a good night.